Oh shit, 75k followers. Quick, before Elon bans everyone, it's time for that 75k AMA. Why is your name Airdorf? According to my parents, that was my first word, even though it's not actually a word. But I was clearly creative at an early age, so I started using Airdorf as a name for all my creative endeavors. You have fallen on a desert island, and God says you can have one food for the rest of your life on this island. What food do you request? Also, you can't have potatoes. God is out of potatoes. Maybe your God is, but my God, with the capital G, created the state of Idaho, so he has unlimited potatoes. But yeah, chicken fajitas. Your top 5 favorite bands. 1. Skindred. 2. Ryan Bingham. 3. Jungle. 4. Pet Shop Boys. 5. System of a Down. I don't really have favorites, but I never get tired listening to these. Are you a collector of anything? Comics, figurines, trinkets, games, etc.? I collect figures from an old tabletop combat game called Mage Knight Rebellion. Also Godzilla stuff, old VHS tapes, weird USB controllers. I used to collect NES and GB cards, but they're so expensive now. Any new projects, my good man? Doesn't have to be faith related. I've got 2 new game projects I'll be working on this year. Ever played Sekiro? Playing it now. Would like to beat it before I start Elden Ring. What are your thoughts on some of the early pixelated indie horror games, like Yume Nikki, Space Funeral, Off, Aoni, etc.? I like Yume Nikki, but when I finally sat down to watch it, my experience was kind of ruined by all the video essays I've watched about it on YouTube. I love Off, especially the music. Have you seen Midnight Mass? Just cause also Catholic horror. I started watching it, but didn't finish it. Same with Hill House. I guess I don't really like Mike Flanagan stuff. Any recent favorite shows or cartoons? Yellowstone, The Crown, Primal, Andor, BattleBots. What were some of your favorite cartoons growing up? Rugrats, Doug, Angry Beavers, Eek the Cat, Thundercats, OG Scooby-Doo, Dexter's Lab, Powerpuff Girls, Samurai Jack, Dragon Ball Z, Gundam Wing, Tenchi Muyo Universe, Big O, Outlaw Star, Futurama, King of the Hill, Rocket Power, Batman Animated Series. There was a lot. Do you have any favorite that's f***ed up horror movies? The Neon Demon. Who would you like to design and hopefully release a game with, as in a dev that you appreciate? I would really love to make a game with Jesse Cox and world-class famous viral TikTok content creator Molly Moon, but I doubt they would ever talk to me. You know Tekken? Yeah, I mean Yoshimitsu. How do you prefer your peanut butter? Smooth? Crunchy? Super crunchy? Or none? Crunchy. Are you thinking of making any games outside of the horror genre? Yes, I'm messing around with a game that's like Dark Souls plus Dr. Seuss plus Shenmue. By the time you're laying in your deathbed, what do you want to have accomplished within the realm of game development? I want to have made several of the scariest horror games of all time. What's your favorite thing about game development? Making cool pixel art and sound music design. What's your creative process like? Like, how do you usually come up with story ideas? It usually comes from a feeling I want the player to experience. I don't consider myself to be a good storyteller. What was it like when you first started making your game? Were you overwhelmed of all the things you had to do? No, I just worked on it in my spare time, kind of learning and discovering as I went along. It was very fun because I had no idea if people would like it, so there was no pressure. What programs did you use to illustrate the Faith trilogy, specifically cutscenes? Photoshop. Would you ever make a short film in the style of the Faith cutscenes? Yes, in fact, I've chatted with a couple music artists about doing a music video in the Faith Oscope style. Is there anything you'd like to see fan artists or fanfic writers explore in the world of Faith? Any tropes you're fond of? I don't really like fanfiction, but I think a lot of the fan art is really cool. Have you thought about commissioning someone to make an 80s Hellblazer-styled comic for your Faith series? People can make whatever fan works they want, as long as they're not monetized. Are you aware that John appears in another game? He is hard to unlock and has his own mechanic called Faith. Awooga! By the way, World of Horror is a pretty cool game, you should check it out. Who would you cast as John in a movie? And would you ever be open to an adaptation of Faith? I would be surprised if I don't get offers for a Faith film/series before long. I think Elijah Wood would make a good John. Your opinion on fan translation? Like, is it okay for people to do fan translations of your game? I don't care. Do you plan to make more games similar to Faith, style-wise specifically? Yeah, I would love to do something like the Game Boy Color version of Alone in the Dark. Will there actually ever be a Faith dating simulator, or are you gaslighting us? It's been on pause for a while, but I would still love for it to happen. What would you claim as the main sources toward forming the Faith trilogy? Was it mostly some passion novella, Pulp Fiction that influenced you? A handful of movies, years of playing and watching Markiplier play horror games, and some of my own experiences. Did you choose to do a game about demons and Christianity because you were religious, or you just like the theme? I'm a believer, yeah, but I choose spiritual supernatural because that's what scares me. I'm not scared by zombies, monsters, or killers in games. Will Faith come to Mac on Steam ever, or am I going to have to take the L? Mac build will likely release this year. What was the single hardest aspect of creating the game? Figuring out the f***ing save load system, lol. I'm going to have to redo it when we port to Switch. Hardest part in making the Faith trilogy? Finishing it. Luckily I had Dave Oshry to keep a fire under my feet. Was there any reason you assigned certain colors to the characters, or were they arbitrary? Purple was inspired by the purple hue of chaos creatures in ancient domains of mystery. I chose blue because it's generally a good color and would contrast with the black background and stand out from the rest of the environment art. In what ways does the version of Faith you currently have deviate from your original vision for the game? I originally wanted Faith to look like PT, but graphics machine broke. For a while I was making it a point-and-click puzzle game. Will there be another chapter of Faith? Probably. Any more plans for the Faith universe? Or are you more looking for just new projects now? At least one chapter starring John, maybe a Garcia spin-off, a few other small Faith-related games. What would John's persona be? Himself. Does John Ward have a favorite breed of cat? Russian Blue. Does John have an inhaler? As of chapter 1, his asthma is dormant. What does John Ward think about the homosexuals? You tell me. Nice. What race is John Ward? Blue. Did you plan for John to be such a badass, or did it just happen on the way? I don't see John that way at all. That little thing in Faith, chapter 3, when Father Ward speaks with the white Holy Spirit that offers him salvation, and then it cuts to Father Ward leaving the building, then cuts to the dialogue with Gary. What was that supposed to be? 2 Corinthians chapter 11 verse 14. Where did you draw inspiration for the unspeakable design? Google Dark Souls 3 Sewer Centipede. Do angels exist in Faith? Depending on your definition on angels, there are several in the series. In chapter 3, there's a visual that vaguely reminded me of The Screaming Pope by Francis Bacon. Did you get inspired by it? Yeah, it was inspired by Bacon. Did you ever have any in-depth thought on John's past with Karen/Molly? Like how they met, their dynamic, what she looked like, etc. I admit, I was interested to see maybe some lore on them, but I also think it's fun to ponder it myself. John and Molly knew each other from before John became a priest. They got married shortly after he came home from the mental hospital. Who was your favorite character in the whole of Faith? Or if not one, top 3? I really like how Gary turned out. I also like Tiffany's arc. I think Liza has a lot of potential that I like to explore in the next chapters. And of course Garcia's best padre. Okay, so there are 2 posts where the original tweet was deleted, and so the only thing we have is Airdorf's response to them. The first one is probably asking about a 3D version of the game. Airdorf's response to that was, I messed around with it a few times, but haven't done any major development. Maybe someday. And the last one, Airdorf's response to it is, you're gonna love chapter 4.